Alright, this should be the last installation for this series of how to create a template. So in this one, I kind of ran out of time and wanted to stop boring you in the last video, because this part is probably the most time consuming and tedious. This part's all fun because you get to use nodes and stuff. This part where you set up all your sliders and on-off switches and all that can get pretty boring. It's also probably one of the big areas I wouldn't mind seeing some improvement on interface-wise to make it a little bit easier. So what we're going to be doing is, so we have a template, but you can't change anything unless you're in the graph. If you're in the graph, like so if we need to change the dirt, we need to go to the FX node, change the dirt, come back, so on and so forth. That's not how we want it. Was not how we want this to be used. We want all the stuff right up front for the artist to use. So, how do we do this? Well, exposing functions. And what I mean by this can get very tedious is here goes the Accord master graph over here. If we come over here, you can see where all the input parameters are. So if we double click in the empty space, give it a second. Please don't crash. Alright, if we look here, input parameters, these are all the functions we exposed and the groups and everything else. And I'm just going to start scrolling, and you can see it just keeps going and going and going and going. It's a lot of functions, a lot of buttons. This is basically your user interface that you're going to create here, and how the artists are going to interact with it, or not just artists, anyone who's using it. The other thing is another point where you need to make decisions, and that's what are you going to expose? Are you going to let them adjust diffuse metallic roughness? Are you just going to let them adjust diffuse because metallic roughness is what's making the material, so you don't want them touching anything? You can also constrain things, so if you know your albedo needs to be within a certain range, you can say, okay, you can move this slider between these colors, and that's it, you know. So it's really the area of a lot of decisions, and it's not, like I said, it's not exactly fun. My biggest thing, if anyone at Algorithmics ever watches this, when it comes to dealing with this side chart, is moving things up and down, and just, I really wish it would just auto group. Like if I name a whole bunch of stuff the same group, I wish it just went together in the same place in the graph. I wish moving stuff up and down in the graph was easier, because sometimes you'll move stuff and then something else will mystically move, and you'll have no idea how it happened and no idea how to fix it. So it kind of makes it a little frustrating. So we're going to go for the basics. We're not going to go into this giant thing here. We're going to just go over some basic parameters, how to use them, and how to make them view nicely, basically. So let's start with our basic materials. So for the most part, you're going to want the diffuse to show. Now, for a metallic color, you have to remember, if you show the diffuse, metallics do influence the intensity of the reflection when it comes to metallic maps. Or is it Fresnel? One of those things. So you'd have to choose if you want to actually expose that or not. So there's a few ways to do it. The most basic way to do it, click on your node, right click, and you would go to expose parameters, and it's going to give you a list of parameters that are already exposed, and then you can choose which parameters you would like to expose. In this case, we want to show our color dull paint, or what is this selected to? Sorry, shiny paint. This is shiny paint. Okay, and then you would go ahead and you could add its prefix and suffix, which would be any type of name you want to call this. So if you just want to call this something else, you can add that here, and you'd hit OK. Now you'll notice that it disappeared from here. The function collapsed because now it's at the next level. So if we double click open space, you can see it is now existing here. So you'd adjust it here. You also see in this case there is an exclamation point because it's looking for the visible if, which I have a statement written in there in my version of the graph. So if we go to delete the visible if, it's going to go ahead and work just fine without a problem. Alright, so we went ahead and exposed shiny paint. Now maybe this isn't shiny paint for you. You can label it however you want. You know, paint 1. Sure. Now you can choose to group it. So you can choose to say this is part of a group. You can choose to do this later. You can choose to do this now. Right now we're not going to worry about it. Okay, so we're just going to expose that one, and we're going to expose this other paint. We're just going to do the paints. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and go here, and this one we're going to do a different way. Instead of right-clicking and going to expose parameters, we're going to go over to the squiggly line, which is the functions button. Do a drop down and hit expose. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and say this is dull paint. Press OK. So it's 2 different ways of doing it. That way you're not going to get that little prefix suffix. If you notice, it doesn't have the visible if, because it's like we're exposing something fresh. So we'll say this is paint 2, just for the example's sake. Alright, so now we have 2 paint colors. Let's go back up to our tech wall. And now if we click on our wall-based material node, you'll see that we have those 2 options. I have to sneeze 1 second. Okay, so as you see, if we click on the node now it's exposed at the next level. But if we double click on the outside of the node, it's not there. And if we go back to this new graph, if you remember, if we grab tech wall 01, you'll see that it's not there either. So here goes another point of decision for you. For the accord graph, master accord graph, so heavy. Every time I click on it, the whole machine's just like, I don't want to do it. Come on. Drag and drop that. You'll see that we have all of our buttons right here, okay? At this final node stage. Because that was the idea of how to make it work. One node that you just plug everything into, you just deal with one node. The other way to deal with it, and the way if you ever want to see more example templates, which I've actually never mentioned this, but there's the gunformer template and the gun template from Algorithmic. From them, you'd find it on their forum. You'll notice that they give you basically, oh, it's because it's changed. They basically give you this with the buttons, and then all you do is input your new images and then create it and save as. That's a decision. This, to me, makes it way easier to edit and change, because you don't have to then expose again. Because now, to get those colors to work, let's go ahead and close the accord template. Let's pin that. Let's go ahead and open our new graph, because we're going to be going back and forth. Okay, so if we go here, go to this guy, right click, expose parameters again, grab those 2, press OK. Now you'll see in our new graph, now we have those all the way as this. So that's a lot. Depending on how deep your graph goes, you're going to constantly be exposing. And so all of a sudden you can have, you have a lot of steps. So you're not only doing it once, you're doing it twice, you're doing it 3 times, so you're exposing things. And we're not even at the tough part. This is just the exposing part. So that's that way of doing it. Let's go ahead and clear these. So if you ever need to bring them back down, you just clear and clear. It'll bring it down for you. But it will leave these, and you can close them like that. Alright, so why did I say that's not even the tough part? Well, because you want to try to create a positive user experience. I don't want to click on the accord template again. Actually, it'd be smarter if I just grabbed it from library instead of grabbing the actual node. Alright. Go ahead and grab this. See how I have it collapsed, a few buttons at a time, all of this. Well, you have to do this all by hand, and it takes a long time. So as you see, like here's our overlays. If we go ahead and click something on, now all of a sudden you get all the options for it. The reason why I chose to do this is so when you open the file or start working, you're just not bombarded with all of this. You get lost really easy, you don't know where you're going. So I did it for flow of usability. based on how many nodes we have. But I am finding that when someone wants something new added, they're like, oh, I really want you to add this node. It's not easy to go in and add something intuitively with how I set this up. It's kind of a mess in there. Not to mention it's kind of scary because if you accidentally move something, accidentally delete something, it's, you mess up all the graphs for everybody, and then you have to go back and try to fix it. Which those aren't public videos, but in the private videos I was doing, that happened where I all of a sudden noticed our dirt nodes were just broken. They were flipped, so that when you had them off, you had the controls of them, and when you had them on, you lost your controls. So everyone had been dealing with it that way, and no one had said anything. And all of a sudden, I caught it, and I had to go back and fix it, figure out why I broke it, or how it broke, so on and so forth. So again, it's a decision. If you're going to keep the graph small, you could do that way. If you're not planning to add more and you know that this is it, cool. In the experimental phase, maybe not take it as far as I did, because your artist might have feedback for you. The downfall to having this way is that now the artist can disconnect things on accident. They have control over the graph. They can add things. They can remove things. Maybe you're okay with that, which is fine. If they want to do that and it works for your pipeline and they understand that, hey, we're just supposed to use these nodes, cool. I'm in the process of basically making a Lego set for our team, where basically you'd start with the base, and then each of those pods I was talking about. So you're like, all right, now I want to add mass generators, I'm going to add oily dirt, and then I'm going to add this, and then you'll just start daisy chaining yourself, and I'll just basically create a set of pieces that it's like, all right, you can use this set of nodes, and go ahead and put them in whatever order. This also helps them if they have a certain effect they're trying to get for, let's say, something that's not on the template, because maybe they're doing a one-off prop and they're like, oh, I really want to use Substance Designer, but I need to add this type of material. I need to put a galvanized metal in there, but we don't have galvanized metal on the character, so what do I do? Well, now with the graph more exposed, they can kind of weave it in a little bit more seamlessly than trying to fight overlaying it at the end. So enough of me rambling. Let's go back to exposing parameters. Alright, so we have these here. And let's say we want to create a group for these. Now, we could have created the group in the last one. It would have saved the group as you bring it forward. But sometimes you want to add to the group as you bring it up. Sometimes you don't. If we go back to our templates, if you see base templates, bring this over, you can see that the groups are still there. And if we expose this stuff, the groups will stay. So if we do this, if we do that, okay, come out here, it's not going to show it. Weird. I don't know. Expose parameter. Oh, it's because that button. It's because those are all buttons. So yeah, if I do that, it's going to break because it's not going to be able to find the function button. Huh. Good to know. Let's go ahead and cancel that. So there you go. There are problems sometimes to exposing. Alright, so how do you group these? Well, let's go ahead and expose them one more level. Yeah. So expose parameters. We're going to expose both of these. Press OK. It's going to tell you, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and clear that. Alright, so we want to group these together. So we want to call this our paint, base paint colors. Base paint. Okay, go ahead and name them both the same. Now, if you want to make subgroups, you just go ahead and slash and add the next subgroup, and we'll use that later on in a second. So now if we go ahead and do this, close those. If you go to this little piece of paper, that'll basically give you a preview. So preview, now you see it's collapsed because it's a group, and now you have a drop down to see them. Okay. So there was one thing. So now let's move to some of our effects. So let's go to Tech Wall Effects, and we're going to come into here and say, okay, we are going to deal with our, what is this first node? Edgeware. Alright, so for the edgeware, we definitely want base color. Okay, so let's go ahead and expose parameters. Not going to do anything with channels. So we want our diffuse color, probably our opacity and blending mode, because you probably want to expose that for your artist to change. In this case, this is metal scratches, so we're going to keep the metallic hidden because they don't need to change the metallic. But they will need to change roughness maybe. So let's give them color and opacity. They probably don't need blending mode for that. Again, up to you. Let's go ahead and grab blending mode just in case. Okay, and anything else? Nope, I think that's good. Let's press OK. Alright, now we also need to select, excuse me, what adjustments you want to allow them to have, like wear level, things like that. So let's go ahead and right click, expose parameters. Alright, let's give them the wear level, the contrast, the amount, and curvature weight. How about that? We'll just leave it at that, just for the point of the example. Press OK. Alright, so here we go. Now you'll notice you'll get all kinds of errors thrown because it's looking for these inputs, because there's visible if statements in there. We won't be getting into that, but that's how you basically hide something from a button. And we're not going to worry about those. Later on, as you get more advanced, maybe I'll do an advanced function where we talk about that. But basically, all you need to do is say, basically give an identifier and tell it input bracket quote the name end quote in bracket, and it'll be like, all right, is this visible? Yes. Okay, we'll have to do that. Is this not visible? All right, then we won't do it, so on and so forth. You can do all kinds of visible ifs. You can make visible ifs come on if there's certain values hit. You know, if this is equal to 1, then expose, so on and so forth. It took me some time to learn and figure out. Alright, so all of this we know is going to be our metal edgeware. So let's go ahead and let's do a main group of metal edgeware. Like so. And we're going to put that backslash in there for the diffuse. So the diffuse is there. We'll just go ahead and copy this. Okay. Paste. And paste. Alright, so to see your handiwork work, we're going to go ahead and do this, and you're going to see you're going to have metalware, okay, and then the diffuse category, and then here goes all your diffuse options. You see the roughness is already doing it, because, again, just like the diffuse already had that stuff set up in the group previous. So you can speed up this process by grouping things early on, but if you want to add things to the group, you still have to go find it, add stuff to the group later on. What do I mean by add stuff later on is exactly this. This node that we connected to this group, it wasn't originally part of it, so we still have to go ahead and add it. So we'll go back in here and say, okay, we're going to add this in. Metal edgeware. And you can see how this can start taking some time. Obviously, well, not obviously, I'm a little slower because I'm trying to type around my keyboard here and the microphone. And you could just expose all these like that and just boop, boop, boop. Cool. Alright, then we'll go ahead and expose it. Make sure it works. Metalware. We have diffuse roughness contrasts that can collapse on their own. And then you have your adjustments. We could put these on top, whichever way you want to do it. Okay. The other thing to note is you can set values, maximum and minimums here. If you notice it at some point it always breaks, you can say, okay, the maximum of this is allowed to be 0.9. anything above 0.9 breaks, and the minimum is this. You can adjust what increment the steps are in. In this case, 0.01. Maybe you need to get finite than that and put 0.001, so on and so forth. I'm not sure what clamp is. I don't remember. I think it has to do with exposing these in like Unity and other things that can control the graph from the interior, is that you have to clamp it. I'm not 100% sure. All I know is that it made calculation speed go up. So don't worry about that. Unless you need to research that yourself, then go for it. Alright. So now if we come back to our tech wall, we click on this, we'll notice we have our metal edgeware group. Then we could expose it at that next level. Expose parameters. We want all of these. Okay. Press OK. And then we'll go ahead and test it. And there you go. We have our base paints, we have our metalware. Alright, other things to note. To move these around, see how it has the move, and you just grab and slide. I hate it. It's just how it works. I really just wish there was a simpler way, just because the way this reacts is scatterbrained. Once you get too many, I don't know what it is, but it can start not acting nice. Another thing to note, once we see our actual node here, for anyone using it, if you're sliding this, if you go over here to this button, reset to default value. So whatever the artist, the designer, technical artist set this up as default, if someone's like, oh, I really just need to get back to default values, you could just come here, default, just like that. I think nope, okay. So just a note. And that's basically what you're going to want to do. And you'll just go through, expose what you need until you have all of the nodes or all the functions that you want to allow control exposed to have control. And you can see how this could get very large very fast based on how much you're going to allow someone to change things. If you want them to change diffuse and you know, metallics and stuff, it gets hefty. I just really wish there was just a fast way just to like its own screen that I could pop up, just like if there was a screen just like this one but larger, that I can easily move stuff and just type in the fields like group, you know, things like that. I don't know, I think it could work a little faster. Maybe I'm just complaining. Alright, that's pretty much how you would create that. Now you can go ahead and test your end graph here. We'll go ahead and test it with our exact stuff because we don't have, actually, I think I have, I don't have a position map for my dreadnought. No. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and grab these resources. So we have our position. Heck's the rest of our resources? I must have deleted them somehow. Weird. I'm sure someone caught me doing that too, and they're like, he's about to delete that. Alright, let's close that. Yeah, it's totally not here anymore. Must have accidentally deleted that folder, so I'll just go ahead and re-import those. Alright, we'll go ahead and drag these in. Switch that back to grayscale. Switch that back to grayscale. Alright, now we can go ahead and do our final test here. We can see, alright, mass goes there. Normal map. Oops, which I made grayscale. Goes there. Our position map. AO and That's the one I missed. So that's actually like that. Double click. Let's go ahead and right click, create output nodes. There goes all of our outputs. Let's view it in 3D. There you have it. Now let's go ahead and test some of our sliders. Paint color 1. Alright, that's working. Paint color 2. Awesome. So those are working fine. Let's make it pink. Yeah. So those are working. Let's go ahead and test our wear level real quick for our edge damage here that we put on. There you go. That's working fine. Contrast. Mount. Awesome. Perfect. And there you go. Now you have a functioning template. Hopefully this little set of videos helped you think about how to create these templates, how to use them, got those gears going of things you want to change, things you wouldn't mind seeing improved. I'd love to see ideas that other people come up with so that I can either integrate them in future projects that I do and just have more knowledge, you know. Just like I hope this gave everyone else more knowledge of ways of using Substance Designer. Yeah, questions, comments below would be great. And have a good rest of your day. And it would be cool to see maybe some pictures of this wall. Maybe I'll redo the normal maps or the mesh. It was made so fast. I think the problem with that leaks thing was that nothing's welded. And so the normal map, there's nothing in between because the normal map is designed, or the leaks was designed to grab the crevice in between the plates, but there's no actual crevice there, so that's why it just was like, meh, not gonna do anything. So, sad panda, because I was so excited about that node. I'll have to go back to the drawing board. Alright, have a good day.